Let's understand how a Spring Boot application gets deployed in an enterprise application server and external application server, which traditionally won't happen in the Spring Boot application because Spring Boot has its embedded server in it and it's self-executable by its nature. That's how the Spring Boot is designed for. But we can override the way the Spring Boot is going to get executed, and we are going to make some modifications in it and ensure that it gets deployed in an external Java enterprise application server. So as you can see, the plan here is to make sure that this Spring Boot application is getting deployed inside an enterprise server called WildFly. So WildFly is an open source enterprise server, and it's actually followed by JBoss. So JBoss is the enterprise edition of the open source version of the WildFly. So that's how we make it understandable from the difference between a JBoss and a WildFly. So JBoss is totally a commercial edition, whereas the WildFly can be considered as an open source enterprise server edition. So technically, whether you use JBoss or the WildFly, it's not going to make any much big difference. It's the same environment where it's going to run in. The only difference is WildFly is an open source enterprise server. Now, coming to this to the deployment process, the Spring Boot need to be archived into an archive called var rather than the jar. So technically, Spring Boot will usually get archived into a jar, but wherein we are going to make now the Spring Boot to get converted into a var. So it's a web archive rather than a Java archive, because the web archive is the one which gets inside your external enterprise servers like WildFly. Since Spring Boot has its embedded server, the application will control how the server have to behave. But when it comes to the external server, the server will control the application. It's not the application which is going to control these servers. So that's how the difference is between the traditional way of running a Spring Boot application versus the Spring Boot that gets executed in an external Java EE application server. So even though it's a web application, we knew that the application is getting archived into a Java archive when it comes to the Spring Boot. But here we are not going to do that way. We are going to convert them into a .var file, which is a web archive file. So let's quickly get into the demonstration of how this can be achieved by externally deploying the application into the WildFly server.